Well, what if you jump in there and you disagree, right? So you can do a whole video about that. Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about some recent markets that we've been investing in that have really great rental returns. And then, you start talking about it, you go, and recently actually on BiggerPockets, somebody shared an article with the 17
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out NoteMBA.com. Now, flying solo as today's host, Chase Thompson.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Note MBA podcast, your home for note investing on iTunes. I am Chase Thompson, joined normally by Robert Woods. Today's show is going to be a little bit different than usual. Number one, Robbie is getting ready for his 3+ week trip to Spain with his mom, which is incredible and fantastic. And so while he is wrapping up some vital business things that he cannot do remotely, that leaves me with today's show. So I am a huge fan of the Tim Ferriss podcast. If you are not familiar, I highly recommend you check it out. He has these wonderful episodes called In-Between-Episodes. Now for him, that could mean a ton of different things. For us, it means I have an opportunity to bring content to the Note MBA podcast that has not been brought here before. What I wanted to bring you today was an excerpt, if you will. We had a fun time in June for the first ever virtual Note conference called Note Camp. During that time, I presented on, I think the title of the actual presentation was Killer Content That Kills. I hope it didn't have kill in it twice. Anyway, it was a really cool piece basically on content creation. It's something that I haven't talked a ton about here on the podcast, but regardless of where you're at in your business, and this is any business, you really should be considering some sort of content creation and a content curation strategy. So during this presentation I did at Note Camp, that's what I talked about primarily. So you're going to get a really cool rendition of it here. Obviously on the MP3 on the podcast here, but coupled with that, if you head over to notemba.com, I'll be posting a video of the actual presentation there, and I'll be posting it over on our YouTube channel and possibly on our Facebook page. So you can, get the real value of kind of what this was and what this is as a presentation by seeing exactly what I was doing. I did a ton of stuff here where I shared my screen and I was showing how I go through a content creation process on a bunch of things, images, different things like this. So it's a really cool opportunity for you to get a ton of resources and see how I go about creating a lot of the content that we create for this show and a ton of other stuff. So on top of all of that, it'll be a really awesome precursor for anybody who is interested in checking out Note Camp coming up in October. This will be Note Camp 2.0. We'll be unveiling some really cool, different ways for people to basically have a really great kind of conference experience, but virtually. Instead of just, number one, it's completely live, which is super cool. And I love that we've, incorporated that aspect. But we've got a new kind of interesting way that we'll be running Q&A and some other really great things that I don't think anybody has seen in the virtual conference space, let alone in the Note virtual conference space. If you want more information about the upcoming Note Camp, you can actually go to notecamp.live. So that is notecamp.live. You can go there, you can get a ticket, you can kind of see who the speakers are going to be and all of that kind of stuff. But anyway, definitely want to go check that out. It's bound to be a really good time. We've got a lot of really great speakers lined up. Highly recommend you guys check that out. All that being said, this is an in-between episode, as it were. It is an opportunity for you to hear my presentation from Note Camp last year. So, without further ado, here is Chase Thompson. Allow myself to introduce myself. Here I am presenting at Note Camp.
So today, here we go. First of all, thank you guys so much. I have loved all of the banter and the resources shared and the tools and the conversation, just everything that has been happening inside the live chat has just been tremendous. So I just appreciate you guys for being a part of this, and for just how involved y'all been. It's awesome. It's everyone really had gave us weird eyebrow, raises when we told them we were going to be doing this virtually, and that it was going to not work and bomb and what have you. But you guys have proved out that this is definitely something that we can do, and you can network and you can really connect with people in a really interesting and meaningful way this way. So thank you guys very much. So now what I'm going to be talking about is my content creation process. There's a few nuanced things that, of course, I won't be able to necessarily dive as into. If you guys have questions, obviously throw them at me, but I'm going to be sharing just a ton of resources, a ton of websites, a ton of places that I go to kind of get all of this stuff done that we're doing, whether it's stuff that I'm doing with Scott or stuff with the podcast, just all over, right? So that's what I'll be sharing. I'll be over on my computer sharing the screen here. I'll be jumping back up here in front of the camera to kind of give you some examples of some things. So this will be a little bit more interactive, I think, than most. But yeah, so let's dive in. So we're going to talk all about content creation, where I go, what I do, and how I get it done. So let's do that. All right, guys. So I've got my screen shared here. If the audio doesn't sound perfect, please let me know if it's not working. But I've got my screen shared here. So the first place the first tool I want to share with you guys, and the first kind of website that I want to make available for you guys is Flipboard. So Flipboard is an amazing site for all kinds of reasons. They do an incredible job, both from an interface perspective and for keeping a lot of what I'm about to show you up to date. It's truly amazing. So what Flipboard is like it just says right there, cover stories and highlights from everything and anywhere that you follow. So what you do is you want to go in. This is an app that's available on Android, iPhone. Obviously, they have it here on the web. So what you do is you just go to flipboard.com, you start an account, and when you start an account, you can pick just from an amazing array of topics and different places to find content, right? So what you can do is you can choose, you can go to like following. So the things that I'm following on Flipboard, we've got the daily edition, which is kind of your daily news, blogging, copywriting, direct marketing, marketing strategy, leadership, productivity, wealth, success, housing, mortgages, investing. So, and actually what I'm going to do for you guys to make this a lot easier, because I kind of hedged a little bit here, try not to jump ahead, but these will be most, if not all, of the links that I'll be talking about in my presentation right there in Basecamp for you guys. So you're welcome. So anyway, moving on. So what does this do for me? Why does this type of site matter? Well, you can jump in here and you can say, I'm interested in soccer, or I'm interested in, Harry Potter fan fiction. You can type in really anything. And when you click through on any of these particular things, it basically gives you a custom magazine for that particular topic. So there's almost 1 million people that follow leadership here on Flipboard. And so what you can do is you can go in here and give yourself some interesting ways to find inspiration, ideas for different things that you can do in your marketing. There's a lot that you can do here. So obviously right here at the top, 6 effective leadership styles we can learn from Game of Thrones. Now, I don't know how many people that are watching this or watching this on replay are Game of Thrones fans. It's not that I'm not a fan. I just don't watch the show. So this article does nothing for me in the general sense. But what can you learn from this article? So one, they're obviously pulling from Game of Thrones from a content creation perspective. They're talking about leadership. So could you just do a wholesale, let's figure out the 6 different, investor styles you can learn from? I mean, you can straight up wholesale steal this idea. But what you can also do is you can click through and see what the article looks like. How is it written? What are they using here? So they've got a great image from this. So what if you did the 6 investment styles from Full House, or, that 70s show, or just some other TV show, some other movie, something like that, right? So they grabbed a great image and then they give a brief summary of what's happening on the show, right? So you can get an idea of what this actually looks like. So then they start to dive in on the actual leadership types, visionary leadership. Let's see, done wrong, done right. So you can see kind of the style that's happening here, coaching style leadership. So right off the top, the very first article right inside of Leadership on Flipboard is a great example of a piece of content that you could write. And as far as inspiration goes, for actually generating some evergreen content, non-seasonal. It's only seasonal based off the fact that Game of Thrones is a big deal right now, right? Let's see, we've got, here's where most companies go wrong when looking for job candidates. So you can talk a little bit about if you, let's say you're hiring for your no business. I know right now Robbie is, he's adding 2 new people to his business. So he could jump in, read this article, and then talk about the expansion of his business through this article. He could say, if he were creating a piece of content about this, he could say, I recently read something over at fortune.com, and it was all about how companies can go wrong for looking at job candidates. Now, what's funny about the article is blah, 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 blah. And he can just wax eloquent about how either A, he's used this resource in a helpful manner, or he's, it was completely wrong, or whatever the case may be. He can use this as inspiration and directly link back to it, give full attribution, but then create his own piece of content, his own piece of education. So a lot of you, and I'll be reiterating this throughout my presentation here, a lot of you might ask, so what? Right? Like, so what? Who cares if he's writing an article about that? Well, you really have to think of it from the investor's perspective. What if he's got somebody on his list or somebody within his ecosystem that's been watching since the beginning? They've watched Robbie buy his first house, second house, and then on, right? Now he's at a position where he's growing his business to the point he's hiring 2 new non-virtual, 2 new on-site employees. Well, if I've been sitting on the sidelines this whole time with capital because I didn't know if it was going to work, I didn't know if Robbie was going to stick with it, now I'm understanding where his business is and where his business can go, right? So you really have to look at a lot of this stuff through the investor's eyes and just through the general perspective of what can I continue to do? What can I continue to create to be in front of my prospect without being boring, and continue to provide them real and true value, right? So as we continue down, you can see a lot of different places and ways that you could come up with content here. So I'm going to back out again, and let's go to investing, just investing straight up, right? So this is another really awesome kind of magazine style in here. Just over 500,000 people are on this one. How to start investing with just $1,000. So this is a great little article here on Forbes, right? So again, it's another situation where you could jump in. What if you were to write how to start investing in real estate with just $1,000? Granted, that might not be the best note that you're buying there in that situation, but you get what I'm saying. You could do it, say, at $10,000, because a lot of people view real estate investing as a huge money, a capital intensive thing. And it is, but not necessarily with notes, right? So you could, say put it at 20,000 if that's what you want the minimum of people to think what you're buying is at. But you can jump in here, read a well-written Forbes article to give yourself some inspiration and how would you structure your video? How would you structure your audio piece on this or your article on this? You could jump in and get those ideas from that, right? You could obviously give market update stuff, right? So you can come in here and say, pull a bunch of different articles together to get an idea of, you want to do a market update video, right? So you've got the Fed's third mandate and the destruction of honest financing. Maybe you want to talk a little bit of Brexit, what's happening with that in the market. And in a non-political way, you can jump in here and get some really great ideas for, let's see, Wall Street eyes low rates, earnings after Brexit. So you can jump in here and kind of get an idea of what's happening in the marketplace and do a market update for people. And you could say once a month, you have an email that goes out, one of your emails. Let's say you're going to do an email once a week to your list. Well, the last week of every month, you could do a market update, bit. And all you'd have to do is jump in here and go into the investing or mortgages or housing. This is a great one right here. I'm going to give a housing update, right? So Christy Clark on house affordability, allow banks, housing financing companies funding land deals. You can give these updates from very reliable sources, but it's still coming from you, right? You're now the Fox or the CNN or whatever, right? Or whatever your flavor is, right? But you're bringing this news to these people in such a way that you're still the focal point. And whenever they think of real estate, they think of housing, they think of investing, the brain always pings back to you first because you're the one that is always talking about this stuff with them. You're the one they always see you giving to, right? So another tool I love to use, another place I go for that inspiration and to get ideas and to really bounce around on, if I'm not feeling it that day, like I'm like, man, I really, I need to, get an idea for a piece of content. I'll jump over to Medium. So medium.com is a fantastic website for written content and very similar to Flipboard. You can just jump in here. You can check out the top stories. You can follow specific people. You can also just search a certain topic. So right up here at the top. But these are incredibly well-written pieces in here, and it'll give you an idea of the things that you can be doing to create value for the people that follow you and the people you want to try to connect with. Another really cool thing about Medium is you can also publish to Medium. So Michelle, you've been doing those videos about letters home from Note Camp, right? So you can actually jump into Medium and you can just start writing right here at the top. Just click there and you can start writing. You can go to full screen mode. And it gives you all the, the shortcuts to be able to make it look nice and pretty and all that kind of stuff. But you can jump in here and you can start writing on this site right here under your profile. Now, why does that matter, right? You might be asking, well, that isn't my website. Medium isn't really a place a lot of people I know go to yet. Well, that's perfectly fine. I understand that as a general question that you might have. But it's really important to understand two key factors. Number one, Medium was founded by one of the co-founders of Twitter. They've gotten a tremendous amount of venture capital. It will become a hub for content on the internet. And it's already started to become a hub for content on the internet. So that's one important thing to know. Number two is they have a really interesting way that they promote content that's written on the site. So they have both automated as well as human curated systems in place to promote content. So what that means is that if you write just a fantastic piece of content, if it's picked up by their automated and or human curated, people literally from their company go in and read articles. If it's picked up by them as like, oh, wow, this is a really great piece, regardless of the number of people that have read it or the number of people that shared it or anything like that, it's literally, if it's good content, they include it as an email out to people every single day that they think might be interested in it. So what that basically means is you've got a company with a list, an email database of 20 to 30 million people that could potentially pick up your article and email it to them. That I don't know how big your email list is, but mine is nowhere near the 20 or 30 million spot. Do people follow you on Medium? Absolutely, people follow you on Medium, and you can follow people on Medium. So you can actually go to, if you go back to the homepage, these are all what shows up on the homepage. It says for you. These are all the people I follow on Medium. So you can jump in. So let me actually come over here. I'll go to tech. Just randomly, I'll go to tech here. So this is somebody writing about driving might become the new biking. I have literally no idea what that means, but I can jump in here, and there's this follow button. So now every time David Silver writes an article, I get an email, and I get a notification when I log into Medium. On top of that, I can recommend his article. I can like it. I can also comment on it. I can share it to all the social platforms, all of that kind of stuff. And what's really cool is if you write about a topic that's big, like housing or real estate, you can either follow David, who's writing about those things. You can also follow the actual topic at large. So I can just follow self-driving cars as a larger global topic, right? So if you write a really great piece of content about mortgages or default or whatever the case may be, you can actually be included in those larger publications. So anytime you write about that topic, someone who follows that topic will get your content. It's a huge opportunity to spread the net of what you're doing much wider than you could if you just blogged on your own website. Because I don't know too many people on this particular, who are watching right now during the conference that have even 10,000 people that visit their website every single month, let alone tens of millions of people, right? So it's a really amazing opportunity you have to widen the net from a publication perspective. And then, of course, from getting ideas and inspiration for your own content. Next up is going to be LinkedIn Pulse. This is exactly the same as Medium, guys. You can come into LinkedIn Pulse. Again, all of these links are included in Basecamp. You can jump into LinkedIn Pulse, and this is just tons and tons and tons of content other people have written. Well, there's a lot of content on Brexit. I don't think I'm that interested in Brexit at the moment, but apparently LinkedIn thinks I am. But you can jump in here and you can get all kinds of ideas for your own, the own content that you're trying to create. And you can actually click on this little navigation bar here at the top, and you can actually curate a little bit of what you're seeing even in Pulse at large. So you can jump in big ideas and innovation, right? You could jump in on marketing. You could jump in on why Brexit's happening. I have no idea what that has to do with marketing, technology, all this other stuff. But you can, Brexit and tech. Brexit is everywhere. You might want to write an article about that, by the way, guys. It is literally everywhere. But what's really cool is you can jump in here and you can see this engineer turned toy maker. This is so great. This engineer turned toy maker. That's awesome. A lot of engineers on the call. You might be interested in this article. But you can jump in here and get an idea. What's really cool about this, guys, and what's really important to notice about this is, remember earlier when I talked about taking a step back and not just consuming content online, but taking a step back and looking at the content you're consuming. Why did I click on that link? Why did they choose that headline? Why did I watch that video over this video when I searched on YouTube, for how to bake a cake? Was it because the thumbnail was better? Is it because the title was better? But stepping back, and every time you click, every time you open an email, ask yourself, why did I do that? Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Because then you can start to translate that over into your own stuff, right? So the same thing is possible here. Why is LinkedIn putting this content in front of me? What is it about this headline that LinkedIn decided this is what I want to put in front of somebody? What is it about, if you find a really great author, so if I go back to actually the top posts, as it were. So Brexit Blues, what's happening next? So take a look at the actual post. She's got some fairly longer paragraphs than I like to read, but you can see her average paragraph, 7 lines, 4, 5, 7. So you can get an idea to go, okay, now I know how to maybe structure my content for LinkedIn. And then you can go, okay, so she's got some underlines. She's got some underline headings. This in a lot of different places is called H1, H2, H3. It stands for header 1, header 2, header 3 type signification, signifying what that is for that particular post. But you can see here the structure. You can get an idea of structure. So when a lot of people have a difficulty with creating content because they feel like, well, I don't know how to structure it. Well, you're consuming content all the time. How is it structured? Take a step back. Every episode of CSI is the same, right? CSI opens up, the show starts, and then, or Castle. Castle's a great example of this. If you've never watched an episode of Castle, I'm going to give you the explanation of Castle right here. Castle starts, it's in some dark place or some random setting around New York. Someone's doing a thing, and then it cuts to the killer who's like hiding in the shadows, and then it cuts to black right when the killer's about to kill the person. And then it cuts to like Castle in his kitchen, and he's like flipping eggs or dropping an omelet on the floor, and you're like, oh, and then he's like making a joke about a thing, and then like it's formulaic in the way that they do it. Do the same thing. Do the exact same thing when it comes to your posts. Find a formula that works, but start to gravitate. You can start to gravitate towards the posts that you read a lot yourself. So not only can you gain ideas and ideas for structure on places like LinkedIn, Medium, Flipboard, but on LinkedIn, you can also publish content, which is great. Right up here, publish a post. Publish a post. It's not going to, no one's going to be mad at you. No one's going to yell at you when you publish a post. If you go to my actual LinkedIn, you can see I've published all kinds of posts all across. I've got all kinds of posts that I've published on LinkedIn, right? About a myriad of different topics. So this one's actually from a podcast episode we did. So I've got a link back to my podcast episode. I've got an image that links back to my podcast. I've got some text. You can see the structure, how I've got it structured much more conversationally, not so many paragraphs. I've got the highlights that we talk about when it comes to that particular podcast episode. I close out, and then I have another link to the structure, right? The structure. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And when I click back, I'll click on a different one. So I'll click on this, the last one in here. So again, I've got a link back to my website. I've got an image that links to the podcast. You can see the structure here. We'll go over, actually, Leslie, we're going to talk all about images here in just a minute. I'm glad you asked. I've got links back to the website again. I'm going over the main key things we talk about in this podcast. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? It's just a structure. I'm not reinventing the wheel every time. It's good to have iteration. It's good to get better as a writer, as a video creator, as a podcaster, as a business person, no question. But let that happen organically and naturally over time. Don't just set out to assume that you're going to have everything worked out the first time you create a piece of content. Come up with a structure, use that structure, and find freedom and find growth in that structure, as opposed to trying to just make a perfect blog post the first time out, right? You want to get into a rhythm to be able to allow for that growth to happen. Next up, we've got BiggerPockets. BiggerPockets is a great place to go for content, and it's another great place to go to post. So if you go over here to their education, you can go to the BiggerPockets blog, and you can see what other people are posting. What is if you create a post, do you publish it to all your sites, i.e. push the button once, all sites? I'll actually talk a little bit about that. Wiggins. I don't know your first name, just M, so I'm just going to go with Wiggins. So you can see what other people are talking about. They're talking about secret to long-term investing success. That's a fantastic idea for a post. Which is better, a large property management company or an individual manager? I mean, you can talk about these things. You can blog about these things. You can write about these things. You can do videos about these things. But figure out what other people in your space are doing. Murray, fabulous. Love it. But on top of that, you can actually also go to the member blogs, as it were. So you can also post to a members blog section, if that makes any sense, which is really, really cool. So if you go over to community, you can actually go to member blogs, and you, as a member of BiggerPockets, can post blogs here as well, just like you can do on LinkedIn, just like you can do on Medium, your own site, all of that kind of stuff. You can also post articles and content here, which is fantastic. It's a great place to post content. Next up, we have a wonderful tool I love called Nuzzle. What Nuzzle is, and the reason why I like this app here, is for those of you that don't get Twitter. You're like, look, man, I don't want to post to Twitter. I don't get it. I don't love it. It's the dumbest. I'm okay with that. I don't feel bad that you don't like Twitter. It's not like I have like stock in the company, right? But what you can do is jump on Twitter one time or over the course of like a couple of weeks and start following really great people on Twitter. Just follow them. Don't try to build your own following. Don't try to like make it the new social network of your life. But you can follow really great people on Twitter and then connect your Twitter account with Nuzzle. And then what Nuzzle does is it creates news articles. It basically creates a magazine for you based off of the links these other people are sharing. So just like Flipboard, just like Medium, just like LinkedIn, and just like BiggerPockets, you can jump in here and find really great content that other people are sharing to give yourself ideas, to give yourself endless topics to be talking about. If you're publishing these sites, must it be unique content each place, or can you repeat the process? Yeah, so this is a little bit of an answer to Murray's question. So it depends on the site. So a place like LinkedIn, I would just literally post a little byline at the top or the bottom that says this article originally appeared on mywebsite.com or on Medium. I would do the same thing. Literally edit copy, edit paste, and format it for that platform. And then at the bottom, just put this article originally appeared at mywebsite.com. LinkedIn or BiggerPockets is a little different. they want you to have original content there. So what does original mean? Well, you have to have about 35% original. So if you took a whole article and it was 3 tips on X, well, you would need to change at least one of those tips for BiggerPockets not to be like upset with you. They're a really strict walled garden place to produce content or to really do anything. But it's still a great resource. So BiggerPockets requires you to change a little bit of it from their own personal perspective. But for the other places you go, just sharing with a byline back to where it was originally posted is perfectly acceptable. Next up is going to be a site called Timeline, timeline.com. Again, it's just another place to get really awesome potential content for you to talk about and write about. The reason why I front-loaded all of these resources about where you can get content from up front is because the one thing I hear the most from everybody is, I don't have enough ideas. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to do it. That type of stuff. Well, I'm giving you just tool after tool after tool after tool of places to go to get ideas until you yourself start either A, coming up with your own in a fashion that's acceptable. You're coming up with it quick enough that you can actually produce some stuff that's interesting. Or B, you just continue to borrow from these other sites. Get some ideas, sit down and write your own stuff, but move forward with it there. It doesn't matter. Just make sure if you're going to like wholesale talk about somebody else's stuff, make sure you attribute them. There was a great link on Forbes. There was an awesome article on, Business Insider, whatever it is, just make sure you attribute and then give your own original piece on it. Next up, we have Facebook. Facebook's a really great place. See what other people are sharing. See what people are talking about in your groups, right? Or you can also do a hashtag search. So hashtag real estate investing. So you can do hashtag searches on Facebook as well. Well, there's Garrison Gilbert right there, posting some goodness there, which is great. But you've got a lot of really interesting stuff here. So you can also find, this is awesome. Some lady standing in front of a house video. I definitely want to watch that later. Common landlord mistakes to avoid. These other things. So instead of saying common landlord mistakes, maybe you just say common mistakes people make when they invest in notes or whatever. See how that person structured that post. See what points they made. Figure out what maybe you could do with regards to your own piece of content from there. But you see what I'm talking about.
Did you answer these questions already as you're going or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Next up, you've got Twitter, which is, again, a great place to do. Just follow a lot of great people. Then you can use a tool like Nuzzle. Or you can also jump into Twitter, search over here, and do the same thing. Hashtag real estate investing. So then you can jump in over here, do the exact same thing, and just figure out what other people are talking about. And just go through. And look, what is that? 17 U.S. markets with the best predicted single-family rental return. That is a long title. Wow. But this is from BiggerPockets. Wow, so this is a post from BiggerPockets. 17 U.S. markets with great rental returns. Well, what if you jump in there and you disagree? Right? So you can do a whole video about that. Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about some recent markets that we've been investing in that have really great rental returns. And then, you start talking about it, you go, and recently actually on BiggerPockets, somebody shared an article with the 17 places, blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I really disagree with like 10 of those 17. And here's why. Or I agree with all 17, but here's 12 more or whatever, right? So you can see what I'm generating here for you guys as far as content creation goes. And then, of course, YouTube is just an amazing place to find additional content and all that kind of stuff. You can come in here. You can find an amazing amount of videos. You can also follow really great people on YouTube that, so like I brought this up here earlier. So this is an old YouTube channel I used to generate a bunch of business when I was a loan originator. So what my co-host and I would do is literally what I'm talking about here. So we would just tips for claiming home office deductions. Do you need neighborhood advice from Zillow? Search is going mobile. Are you ready? So talking about real estate agents and are they ready for local search, right, on mobile devices? But this is what we did. We generated a ton of business using these YouTube videos. Just the two of us standing, literally doing exactly what I'm talking about. And the crazy part is these videos are 4, 5, and some are even 6 years old, and they still get views today. They still get comments today. I average over 2,000 views a month or more, depending on the month, on these videos. Now, 2,000 views is not a lot of views, but for content I created 4, 5, and 6 years ago, that's ridiculous. There's a lot of people that don't even have 2,000 views on their stuff, period, let alone every single month for stuff they made years ago. But what I'm talking about is what you can do to do that. Then, of course, here's a perfect example. You got the Node MBA YouTube channel. It's where we post all of our stuff. Just a bunch of headshots of me, which is awesome and I love, And I shared this with this book with you guys the other day. Robbie was talking about this book that I shared with him. Do you go back and answer people's questions in the comment sections of? Yes, absolutely. You go back and you engage. When someone takes time to send you an email, comment on your video, say something on any, yes, absolutely, 100% of the time. That would be time consuming. Leslie, yeah, sure. I guess technically speaking, you could say it would be time consuming, but if someone's going to take the time to comment on one of my videos, they might also take the time to invest with me. So no, it isn't time consuming at all, because the potentiality for someone to invest in your business is so much higher if they're engaging at that point. In fact, I would love if every day I had to go through the time consuming process of doing that. But those videos are very old and I don't do that business anymore, but I still jump in and answer those questions and reply to those comments. It'd be the equivalent of if I called you on the phone and you saw that you had a missed call from me. Would you call me back? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's the same thing. So what you can also do from a content perspective is, what books are you reading? What are you learning from the books? I can vouch for Chase responding. I contacted him with LinkedIn and commented. I was like, yeah, exactly. Tom rocked it out, man. He was determined. What books are you reading? What lessons can you impart? This book's called Ego is the Enemy. It's a fantastic book. And I linked it up when Robbie was talking, but how is your ego getting in the way when you're investing? You could just pull so many great quotes, so many great lessons out of these types of things. And then somebody asked a question about images, right? So you guys wanted to know, okay, so now we know where to go for this, for getting the content ideas, for finding the way to do that. Well, once you've got that, you're going to want to go to Canva. So canva.com, again, all these links are in Basecamp. Canva.com is an awesome website for getting images ready to go for blogs, Instagram, Facebook, all of that kind of stuff. So if you were going to be creating an image for your blog, let's say, or for a blog post that you're writing. So I'll just go here. I'll click on presentation 16 by 9 aspect ratio image. I just like that aspect ratio as an image, and I'll explain why in just a second. So 16 by 9 is the presentation aspect ratio I use for all of my images in Canva. The reason for that is that's also the aspect ratio for thumbnails on Facebook video and YouTube videos. So you can double up using that content spider. If you use this presentation 16 by 9 template from Canva, you can also use these images if you decide to shoot a video about the content you're writing. You can use it as the image on, say, LinkedIn or your blog, and then you can also use it as the thumbnail for your videos. So on Canva, you would come in here and you can either use a layout that they've already got, say like this layout here, and it's all X'd out because you'll have to pay $1 if you want this exact layout. So you can go through here, you can find these really cool, great layouts for your own images. You can even look where they say free down here in the bottom corner, and you can create really cool images in Canva for free. Now, what I do is I'm going to give you 2 tools together to use here. I use Pixabay.com, Pixabay. Again, all the links in Basecamp. So let's say we were going to write about real estate. I'm going to do an article about real estate. I'm going to do a video about real estate. So I'm going to type in real estate in Pixabay. And I'm going to use this little image right here, this house with like a Jenga type structure here. So I'm going to download that. And I'm going to put in the old CAPTCHA here. So this is a free image. This is royalty free image I can use. Public domain, free attribution. So free for commercial, no attribution necessary. I'm going to jump back over to Canva, and I'm going to go to uploads. And I'm going to find that image, and I'm going to upload it into Canva. And now I'm going to take that image, and I'm going to put it right there. Do you see how easy that was? Went to Pixabay, found my image, uploaded it to Canva in like 12 seconds, and I'm streaming HD video and blah, 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 right? So it's awesome. So they actually have a filter over this video because that's the template I selected, but I'm going to take that filter off. So there we go. So we have our little house here, right? What's this filter? This is awful. I'm going to turn up my brightness. What does it got? Advanced options? What do we got here? Let's increase the saturation. So you can also change a bunch of stuff about your image, right? Which is truly incredible, right? But anyway, continuing on. Sorry, I'll go back to the simple version. Then all you have to do to add text, right? So let's say you want to add some text. So you drag the text over on the screen and you type in your message, whatever your title this is. And I want my font to be white. And there it is. So there it is right there in the middle. Now that looks terrible, right? Because you can barely see it. So then what you do is you go over here to your shapes. And you add a square, a black square. And then you come down here and you drop the opacity on that square to say 30. And then you push the square back. So now it's basically the structure of this particular graphic is you have your image of your house in the grass. Then you have this slightly transparent black square. And then you have your text sitting on top of that square. Now, if you didn't catch all that, you're going to have to go back and watch the replay. I'm zooming through this here. Very easy to do. I understand I make it look easier than you might feel like it is the first time you do it. But now you can read my white text. You can still see the great image. And you've got a great image for your blog post, for your videos, and everything like that. The next two tools we're going to talk about are going to be Aweber and MailChimp. Again, links in Basecamp. Either one of these tools are awesome tools to use for email marketing, but you guys have to be using these tools. You have to be building your email database, guys. The money is in your database. Period. End of story. So I don't care which one you use one of them because your emails are incredibly important. Incredibly important. So I just want to make sure you guys know to definitely be using one of those platforms. Now, real quick. Actually, I'm going to go here. I want to do something kind of cool here. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see. I want to create a piece of content here for you guys. That's basically what I'm going to do, and we'll see how it if it works. It might not work, but we'll see. So I'm on Flipboard, and we're going to go to the success section. And Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. Oh, this is so great. Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. I swear I'm not like making this stuff up, guys. You clearly are seeing this in real time. So it's a great article on Warren Buffett, obviously investor aficionado, and Bill Gates, an amazing businessman. And so this is Warren Buffett and Bill Gates discuss success, mistakes, and work/life. Oh, it's a video. Oh, that's the worst. I don't want to make you guys sit through a video, so I'll find another article, though I'm assuming that would have been the perfect piece of content to make for you guys. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is an Inc.com article on the remarkably simple way to turn fear into success. Okay, so we're going to scroll down. This looks a lot like the head in the sand image that Scott's always using when he talks about different people in the business. So, this is great. So they have a bunch of different acronyms for fear in this article, right? So article's entitled The Remarkably Simple Way to Turn Fear into Success. So they've got fear, for everything a reason, fear, face everything and recover, fear, find excuses and reasons, fear, frantic effort to avoid reality, fear, false evidence appearing real. So that, number 5, is the one that I've heard the most, false evidence appearing real, right? And the last one is forget everything and run. Now that's hysterical. So here's what I would do. So we're back up top here, right? Let me go back to that article to make sure I can see it. So you guys know I really enjoy doing videos, right? So it's kind of my jam. I enjoy doing videos. I go in a slightly reverse order to what Michelle did. Michelle shot the video, or wrote the post, and then used that as a transcript for her video. Perfectly reasonable thing to do. I just happen to do it in the opposite fashion. So the actual camera that I use is this bad boy right here. I've got a mic on top, and I've got my camera right here. And I flip this out so that way I can see myself, right? So I'm literally like this. I've told you guys, I'm like super clouds. Here's how to find the content. And like, here's the dirt, right? Like this is the granular stuff I was talking to you guys about that I really wanted to dive in with you guys on. So you can see this. You should be looking back at like yourself or whatever. So you can kind of like see me, seeing you, seeing me, right? It's very meta. So what I would do is I would find this really great post on how to remarkably simple, overcome fear, blah, 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 right? So I would have my either sat down on a table or something like that, my little tripod, or I would be holding it. I hold it a lot when I'm producing content. And so what I would do is I would do exactly that, right? So I would talk a lot about the fear. I actually wrote a post, I think, about fear just the other day. But anyway, this would have been a great article to link up with that particular post on fear. But I'd have the camera here and I would say, hey, everybody, what's going on? Chase here from the Note MBA podcast. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about fear. So I've hit record. I'm going through my video, right? Now, what I've heard, one of the most amazing, ways that one of my mentors talks about fear is he used to use this phrase, false evidence appearing real. And that's what he would say fear is. It's this false belief that you have in a thing that's appearing so real to you that you can't take action. You can't move forward on something. Well, what's really cool is I read this Inc. article the other day. It had different ways to view fear through a lens that might be able to get you past where you're at with something that you're fearing. A lot of people I talk to struggle with the risk because I do real estate investing. So they're afraid, they have fear around risk. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can use this particular article, use any one of these different phrases to be able to get you over the hump for where you're currently fearing and really taking your life to the next level. Then I would just go through, and I would go through all of those other pieces, those other acronyms that they wrote. I gave full attribution. I talked about the one that I was already familiar with and I've used myself personally to get past my fear and what have you. And now I've got my piece of content. And did you see how I so eloquently and so subtly talked about real estate investing, right? About the people that I deal with on a daily basis that have fear regarding real estate investing. And so now I get to talk a little bit about my business. I get to provide people tremendous value because maybe they are stuck. Maybe they do want to go launch and start that cupcake shop. They just are afraid. Or maybe they're trying to leave a job, or maybe they're trying to ask out a girl, or maybe they're trying to do whatever they're trying to do. Potentially, this piece of content has moved them past that point of fear, while at the same time being able to plant the seeds for my business and what I do, right? So you kind of see what I'm talking about here, guys. It's not that hard. Yeah. Thanks, Chad. Thanks, Chad. I have way more than 300 minutes. I don't use the email as much as I should, clearly. Don't check my email. So you have to do what I'm talking about, though. This is how I do it. Right? This is how I make it happen. I also do the podcast. I also do written stuff. You're going to find what you're comfortable with, you can do. And you know what? Do that just super fast. But you can go back, you can watch the replays. You can work for you, right? He's talking smack, but he does an awesome job on Snapchat. which is a great fun social app that you guys should definitely be checking out. I think it's an amazing app. I'm not going to dive in on it here, but it's an incredible app to use for your marketing. But that's how you do it. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can literally. Audio's getting wonky. I think. Are you writing on this desk and it's making
It's probably me. My bad. My bad.
So there's a lot of vibration on the table. Scott's writing a letter. But no. So there's a lot that you can do. Just find what you're comfortable with. Find the system that you want to use to make it work. Yes, it's skipping and not syncing the audio sound. Yeah. So hopefully the audio and the sound will eventually sync and we'll be back to good. Okay, now great. So anyway.
What was the app again?
The app is called Snapchat. SNAPCHAT. If you do download Snapchat, be sure to follow me. NoteMBA is Scott Carson's handle over here. There you go. But anyway, guys, so that's what I wanted to talk about when it comes to content creation. I just created a piece of content right in front of your face. You could literally take what I just said, watch the replay, because I guarantee I'm not actually going to create that, transcribe what I said in the beginning, and then have that be your piece of content, right? That's all you have to do. Whatever books you're reading, whatever articles. Chad does a ton of travel. He does an amazing amount of travel. Scott does an amazing amount of travel. If you're at a conference, literally, pull out your phone. Pull out your, if you have a camera. I use a camera because I can, and I've been doing it, and it makes sense. But pull out your phone. Hey, everybody, what's up? Chase here. I'm actually at a really awesome conference in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, this is my second time in Atlanta, and I enjoy the city a lot. But what's really, really cool this weekend is I'm actually at a blah, 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 blah. Just do it. It's too damn easy. This is, for whatever reason, where a lot of people feel hamstrung when it comes to marketing. This is, in my opinion, the easiest thing. Once you start getting into this, then you can start diving in on analytics, and you can start doing all the other crap. I don't even want to hear a question about analytics or hear a question about a bunch of other bull crap that doesn't matter at all if you can't even spend a little bit of time typing out a tweet or putting in a 2-sentence post on Facebook. I put up a post on Facebook about a deal that I had gotten funded. It was 2 lines. I didn't even put an image. Scott gave me crap in my Facebook feed about not putting a damn image. I'm using this Facebook post as a means to generate a private capital. And I was trying to slow play it for a reason. And he's like, where's the image, bro? But guess what? Still raised money.
That's a good thing.
Still raised money. It's crazy. Someone can talk shit and I can still raise money.
You posted it though.
I posted it, right? It was a throwaway post in a lot of people's minds. It just said, funded my next deal, da da da. And I can bring it up for you if you want, but it isn't the point. The point is I did it. And the point is it got me funding, and it was 2 sentences. I set 5 appointments off that one post.
Yeah.
People wanted to sit down with me and go, oh, wait, you got deals? You could get money? Oh, I cannot express to you how simple, though I get how difficult it can be in the beginning. I'm not saying easy, I'm saying simple. Content creation can be. That if you want to talk, someone asked a CRM question, I can definitely answer a CRM question. But I don't have any time for someone wanting to talk analytics. I don't have any time for someone wanting to talk about metrics or any of these other things if you can't sit down and create a piece, because none of that shit matters at all if you can't even create the post, right? And that's really important to understand, guys. Like, I get it if you're the engineering person and you want those numbers. Apply the numbers and apply the formula to the creation, and then we can have a conversation about the formula and the numbers for the actual metrics. But until you're doing that, I got no time for you. But that's how easy it is. I just create. I'll do it again. Let's see. We got a post here about these 10 traits of success represent half the battle. That's insane. Okay, cool. So this is a post from another ink by sheer happenstance. I was on Flipboard, but another post from ink.com, the title of which is the 10 traits of all top performers that represent half the battle, right? And I'm assuming that means battle to success or whatever, but that's part of my content. Just a minute, I'll explain. Okay, so so the 10 traits, which in my opinion, these aren't even traits. So here's how I would create this piece of content. So I got my camera out. I'm watching myself to make sure I'm staying in frame, right? Everything's all good, right? We're all good. Hey, everybody, what's up? Chase here from the Note MBA podcast. I just got done reading a really confusing article from Inc.com. So the title of it was wonky enough. It was the 10 traits that represent success that gets you half the battle or something ridiculous. So then it got me thinking, well, if 10 represents half the battle, what are the other 10? Because 10, 20 would be the full battle. Anyway, they start diving in on the traits. One of the traits they talk about is how people that are successful, they deliver results. It's not really a trait. It's more of an action, right? And then they start talking about, that's literally what it says, by the way. And then it says they don't make excuses. So then the next trait they go into is how they don't make excuses. Now, that's a little bit closer to a trait, but I would probably make it a little more simple and say none of the leaders and none of the successful people I know complain. They just don't have time for it. Do you know what the ROI, and the only reason why I bring up ROI is because all the time I'm talking about real estate and real estate investing, right? So I love that phrase. I love ROI. But the ROI in complaining is non-existent. It's like negative in the other direction. I love ROI in the positive direction when it comes to actually getting things and money and what have you. The ROI in complaining is exactly nothing. It's the worst. So yeah, they talk about excuses, but that's what and so I would basically tear down this article because I actually, in the 2 seconds it took me to look at it, I think it's crap. I don't like it at all. So I just made a piece of content about what I actually feel are the successful things while talking. Amazing, right? Not that hard. Again, that's all it takes. Load it up, make it happen. If possible, please do comment on CRM. So CRM, so you're talking about like some sort of client management system. So I use Aweber. That was the one I linked up over here. Scott uses Infusionsoft, which is like the big gorilla of CRMs. It's like a Salesforce.
And MailChimp too.
Well, MailChimp's a gorilla technically. But MailChimp's another great one. So I use Aweber. A lot of people I know use MailChimp. Scott also uses MailChimp. But yes, I know. So for me, here's how it works. You can use MailChimp. Scott recommends MailChimp to everybody, and I think it's fabulous. The reason why MailChimp is so great is you can have up to 2,000 contacts in that content client, management system for free, basically. So 2,000 clients for free, which is great and awesome. There's only one problem with that. I have seen Scott, and I have personally, I wouldn't say I trained because that would be like completely misrepresentation, but I've been a part of him training close to 1,000 people. In some form or fashion, I've been a part of that.
You've been a huge part of it. Yeah.
And of those 1,000, I've seen him train on how to use MailChimp, and all that kind of stuff. I'd say exactly 60 actively use MailChimp. Why? Because it's free. Now, look, I'm not hating on free. I started with MailChimp, but even I started sending less emails when I really started to get just a little bit busy in my business. Just a little bit busy, I started sending less emails. Why? Because MailChimp is free. We don't value what's free. There's no pain when I don't send a MailChimp email. Because guess what? It's free. Who gives a crap? So I made the strategic decision to start using Aweber. The size of my database made Aweber $50 a month. So now, if I choose not to send emails, I have quite a bit of a pain point. That's almost my cell phone bill. Like $50 a month. I don't care who you are. It probably isn't like gobs of money to some of you, and to others, it's like, oh my gosh, $50 a month, right? But the point was, I had to create a pain point for me to take action in this way, and I'm the guy who does marketing. Don't even get me started on how expensive Infusionsoft is. Scott using. So like, I don't want that much pain in my business, but you know what I'm saying.
It's a small house payment.
Yeah, it is. It's a small house payment. It's exactly right. We have notes, right, that are that big. So my point being is, I had to create a pain point. And when 1,000 people I've seen get familiar with and get introduced into MailChimp, get signed up on MailChimp, and only 60 take action, that's telling me something. That's why I recommend Aweber, because the cheapest one's like $20. It's like almost a Netflix account.
Well, if you go with 2,000 contacts,
if you start going over to, well, that's where I'm at. But if you're going over 2,000 contacts and you're actually sending things, you're probably going to also raise money. You're going to grow your business. See how this rolls downhill, snowballing a little bit. But that's my point. So even me as the marketer, I needed that pain point to be able to start making that happen. But yeah, they're incredible, right? Like you get the person's name and you get whatever, and you're able to plug them in and see who you're able to contact and all that kind of stuff. But those are the ones that I use. And Scott and all that kind of stuff. And if you start with MailChimp and you get consistent with it and you make it part of a system, awesome. It'll be a while before you get to that 2,000 for most people. So you'll have a couple of months of free, and then their charge is pretty much rough with like a ConvertKit or an Aweber or any of those other ones. It gets, theirs is slightly cheaper. But again, it just depends on what you're trying to do. But those are the ones that I would dive in on. Do something, anything, but nothing. Yes. First guy, yes, exactly. Thank you, Nelson. Exactly right. Do something, preferably not nothing, right? But what's really funny about that quote is that doing nothing is actually still doing something. The lack of action is the choice not to take it. Right?
Oh, I love that. Love that.
So, if I'm like, I really don't want to send that email, I'm just going to go sit on the couch. That's an action. I am actively walking my happy ass over to the couch and not actively growing my business in terms of going to write an email, right? So just understand that. It's very important to get that, right? So anyway, what other questions do you guys have about content creation? I think I'm close to time here, so make it snappy. But no, let me know what other questions you guys have, if any. I might have missed some or something like that. But that's okay, good. But that's where I like to focus when it comes to content creation. There's a few other places I go. There's a ton of tools I use and things like that. But that's the baseline of what I do and how I go about doing what I do. So yeah. Also follow Chad on Snapchat if you're new to Snapchat. He does a good job. He needs to do it more, but it's okay. I'm not going to give him shit like he gave me shit. Oh, I think I technically just did. But anyway, love you, Chad. You're an amazing guy. He's a good follow on Snapchat. So awesome. If I could have so what's funny, okay, so Michelle just brought up a really interesting point. If you could do half as much, that is exactly the point. Do half as much. Do a fourth. Do an eighth of what I do, right? Yeah, just going to self-promote yourself there, huh, Chad? Like that, huh? Do an eighth, right? Like we do, I do a weekly podcast. I do an email out to a little small private email list I have about marketing every single week. I do an email out for our podcast. I do an email out if I've got an asset for sale. I do, so I'm doing a bunch of things. It's like Scott, right? Like we literally have a calendar. We actually, during the fast track that he's been talking about this whole time, he and I both break out our marketing calendars.
Yeah.
Like, so when you're either virtual or in the room, we literally go, here's what I do Monday. Here's what I do. We literally break out our marketing calendars for you guys to see what we're doing, which is really cool and just kind of a value add for that fast track. But if you did an eighth of what I did, that means you're doing an email twice a month. An email twice a month. Like, that's nothing. Like, I get why that might be difficult for some in the beginning, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. Because what it could do for you from a business perspective is tremendous.
I mean,
Michelle, I burn all the calories. I do. No, so here's why I have to get so hyped when I do these presentations. So my wife, we're having our third child. It's a little boy in September. I'm very excited. But I've gained like 25 pounds a kid. And so I'm up like 75 pounds. Like, I don't get to lose the baby weight like my wife does. So like I've got to give these presentations so that way I can like slowly start to drop some lbs. So that's how that works. And I've got just a few minutes. And somebody asked about some video tools that I use. So I do want to talk a little bit about that, just because I've never really covered it before. That would be actually, was it Sterling? Sterling, yeah, Sterling. The long and short of it is I use Adobe Premiere. If you have a Mac, you could probably use iMovie. If you've got a Windows or if you got a PC or Mac, I use Adobe Premiere. It's amazing. It's like $20 a month. It's extremely cheap and it's incredibly robust and just a fantastic tool to use from a video creation perspective. And yeah, that's what I use. I use Adobe Premiere. I use my phone to do a ton of video, but I use my phone even now in the videos that you see on Facebook. I'll use my, or NoteMBA, I use my phone a lot for that. I upgraded from my phone I upgraded from my phone a while back to a GoPro to do a ton of videos. And it created, nice HD video and all that kind of stuff. So I moved to the GoPro, which is great. It's nice. It's lightweight. It's not expensive. And I used that for a really, really long time along with my phone. And then I got this camera given to me by a real estate agent that he bought it because I told him how important video was for his business. And then he just couldn't make video work. And so I gave him some other tools because I was like, oh, that stinks. I'm sorry you did that, blah, blah, blah. And I gave him some other tools. And then he immediately got 3 listings off of the tips I gave him. So then he just gave me his camera and bought which this camera plus this lens is like $2,000. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that worked out really well for me. I don't, that's really cool. But anyway, that's what I use. And I don't, I don't have any extra lights. I don't have, my backdrop, if you've ever seen one of those videos. So here's a really funny thing. And this is for the however many people are on this call. This will actually be really funny, and don't tell anybody. But if you watch any of those Note MBA videos, and I'm gonna continue doing it, so it's gonna be funny either way, because this is kind of like a little inside thing between us here, as if this were a real conference, right? Because it is. Where you see me shooting those Note MBA emails, about 90% of them is right up the road from me is a local library. And they have this really great outdoor area with all these chairs. And because we work, right, during the daytime, and most people are at work, the library usually doesn't have a ton of people there. And so they have this really great kind of courtyard area. So that's where I shoot 90% of my videos is at my local library, the little garden up there. And so a lot of people are like, I don't have space. I don't have a studio. I don't have whatever. I'm literally outdoors in the Texas heat. The other day, I was shooting a video. I checked the weather. It was 97 degrees, like flat, right? But then, you have like the indexes or it was like 102, whatever. It feels like 102. And I shot my video outside. So at a local library, like I'm talking about.
Tried to sting you?
That's what the bee tried to sting me. Like if you saw the hornets, the hornets tried to sting me. But this it's funny that we talk about this. They don't make excuses, right? What leaders do and how this, whatever. I just don't have time. For someone that says they can't do content creation, I just gave you the way to do content creation. For someone says that I can't do video because I don't have a camera, bullshit, you have a phone. Or you've got really generous people that give you cameras. Or I don't have a studio. Robbie, when you saw Robbie on this conference, if you didn't get to see him, go back and watch it when we do the replays. He actually built a studio out of his house. Robbie has a studio. I shoot because he has an extra room. He built one out. That's amazing. I'd love to do that. I just can't. I got 3 kids. Yeah. My studio is the nursery, right? And I don't think you guys want to see that, right? No. So I don't do well for excuses when it comes to marketing and content creation, just because. So anyway, from a video perspective, that's what I use. Those are the things I talk about. Hootsuite's great. I actually talk about Buffer in both of those programs, which is cool. Cheat sheet, yeah, super cool, perfect. Any other questions, you guys? I've got literally a minute, and we're on 20-second delay, so I'll have 40 seconds by the time you hear me say this.
So why don't you talk about, there are some more social media platforms that are linking to other media platforms like Michelle talks about. So why don't you talk about how you use a little bit of Buffer, yeah.
Exactly what you need. I'm glad, Sterling. I'm glad I helped you with that. Sites that lead to other sites. That's actually a moleskin, not a sheet, Christina. I just saw Scott post on Facebook from Instagram. Yeah, so there's a lot of sites that have, so obviously Facebook or Instagram has a link to Facebook. They own it, right? But you can also post to Twitter from there. Personally, I like to post natively as often as possible. And what native posting means is that if I've got a picture I've taken on Instagram, I'll post it to Instagram. And then if I want that photo also on Facebook, I load up Facebook. And when you take a photo on Instagram, it puts it in your photo file. I'll just go to Facebook and I'll bring it up and then I'll post it in there on Facebook. I post it natively. Almost every single platform, except for Twitter, well, we'll talk about that in a second. Almost every single platform has some sort of algorithm that ranks content. Almost none of them are real time. Twitter's real time. If I post right now, you'll see it right now. Facebook is real time for like Scott and I because we're so connected. If Scott posts something right now, I'm going to see it right now on Facebook because we're so connected. But that isn't always that way. Facebook will give more weight to a video uploaded directly to Facebook. Facebook will give more weight to a photo directly uploaded to Facebook. that's just the way the algorithm works. So I post natively as often as possible. Twitter's a little different. The reason why I don't share from Instagram to Twitter is because on Twitter, it used to be when you shared an Instagram photo to Twitter or video, it would come up in the timeline and you could actually see it. It was great. But then they got acquired by Facebook. Twitter got butthurt, and now it only has a link. And then the person's got to go through their feed and then click the link, and then it takes them to your page, and then and that just decreases the number of people that see it. So once again, if I do a video or I do a photo on Instagram, I just go straight into Twitter and I upload it like that. Or better yet, on top of all of that, you could just use Buffer. No, Buffer is a really cool app that allows you to automatically post to numerous different social sites, and it'll post them natively without it being native, if that makes any sense. Without you literally having to be on Facebook, it'll post it as if it were, you get the same amount of juice, if that makes any sense. So Buffer's a really cool app to use for that kind of stuff.
All right, guys, I hope that you got some value out of that. I hope you got a tremendous amount of value out of that. If this is your first time here, be sure to head over to iTunes and give us a rating and a review. We love those 5-star reviews. Thank you so much to everybody that had chimed in over there. Also, if you want links to all of the stuff I talked about in this particular podcast, and of course to see the video version of this podcast, you can find that over at notemba.com, and of course the video, Facebook, YouTube, all that kind of stuff. I'll also get the video posted there as well. So be sure to check those out there as well. As always, be sure to tell 5 other people you know about the Note MBA podcast. Catch you guys next week.